and welcome to Colette and Matt Have Entered the Chat. It's a weekly conversation about the thing that's on everyone's minds, but nobody's talking about. No one.
What's that about?
That, of course. What is it about? All we want to do is play, and yet no one on the internet is talking about all these dang video games, so we are here. My name is Matt Silverman, and I'm, of course, joined by Colette Bennett to talk about this very important topic. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad we're finally going to shed some light on this.
It's about time.
Someone has to do this job.
Yeah, it's not fun. All right, it's a lot of work.
No, I'm definitely not having any fun.
No, it's a labor, and you're welcome, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
To the world.
To the world. You are back from the woods, and now you said to me before we started, "Oh, I have a new setup." Like, what's happening there?
Well, it's not really a new setup. It's really I got a new work laptop, and I had to run around the house plugging things into monitors today. And my usual PC is actually not in my office right now; it's in another room. So I was like, "Oh, I hope it sounds okay," but I'm glad that it sounds fine.
Yeah, sounds as good as ever.
I didn't want to be in the bucket, as you now know what that means. Be in the bucket.
Today we were just going to chit chat about whatever we're playing, but there's something's going on here because.
When will I ever be less delighted by that? The answer, never.
Now, for context. And I'm gonna give you the floor here, Colette. A mutual friend of ours suggested a game to you, and then we were both. You are playing it, and we were both just gushing about this game last week.
Yes, I was, and if anybody that listened last week, they already know what I'm about to talk about. Old Friends is a game I have heard of before because I follow a really nifty Twitter called Wholesome Games, which if you like wholesome games, you should follow them immediately. But I believe they tweeted about the making of this game, which is called Old Friends. And it is a mobile game in which you run a sanctuary for the old dogs that no one wants, that need a home. And let me just tell you that if I was independently wealthy and did not need to have a job to pay rent, I would be doing this with my real life right now. Mm-hmm. So this is the closest I have ever gotten to getting to have the experience of caring for a lot of elderly, sweet baby dogs that no one else wants. And I am living, as the millennial kids say, living. like I seriously get up in the morning and I'm like, okay, I got an hour and a half before work. I need to make some tea. I need to feed the cats, and I need to check on my dogs. That has been my life for the last probably 7 or 8 days. I think I started playing the day before you and I did last week's podcast. So I'm very invested. And the kicker, to me, which, I mean, it wouldn't even have to have this to be as great as it is. But the kicker to me is that Old Friends is based on a real life sanctuary for elderly dogs. And all the dogs featured in the game are real dogs.
That's the part when you explain this.
Some of them.
Yes. When you explain this to me, I was like, oh, right. Okay. It's one of those pet sim management sim mobile clicker type games, which we all love. And becomes part of your routine, as you said.
Right.
But then the layer above that is
it's unreal. I just feel like, my entire life I've been in, if you were like, hey, Colette, what's your dream job? I'd be like, all this web media shit, fuck that. I'm going to go and rescue animals for the rest of my life and take care of them. And so.
Well, you're talking about the Jon Stewart simulator, which is that Jon Stewart hosted The Daily Show and then famously retired when he had enough, and now just runs a farm for elderly,
Does he really?
Unwanted farm animals and dogs and cats. Yeah,
oh my gosh.
I believe that's what he does with his time. And it's,
Wow, Jon Stewart just jumped 12 levels in respect inside my heart. I had no idea. But yeah, it's always been my dream. And I'm pretty sure that when I retire, that this is basically what I'm going to do. But yeah, long story short, over the years, I've always paid attention to and donated to many different rescues. All my cats are from rescues. And I've seen them try so many different things to kind of get people to notice, that like older animals, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I want the longest lifespan with the animal. I get it. I really, really do. But like, if you've never had adopted an older, middle-aged, older animal, like, yes, it takes a certain type of person to be okay with living the shorter lifespan with them. But oh my God. Like, oh my God. Anyway. Yeah. So I'm super just blown away by the fact that this exists. And I think it's the most clever way I have ever seen. Like, I don't think it's necessarily intended to just be a clever way to like help people adopt the dogs, but it's by far the most clever thing I've ever seen to get people to go, oh, I could adopt these dogs. Like it just blows my
awareness.
Mind. Yeah. If I had a farm, I would literally, by the way, I could drive to Old Friends. I think it's like a 4-hour drive. And like, yeah, it's that close. And I might. And like, I seriously, if I could, would just go and like get all of these dogs. Like, I love them all that much. I'm a crazy woman.
You just talked about it last week, and then we said, wouldn't it be, who made this thing? Like, a shelter.
Who are these geniuses?
A shelter wanted to bring awareness about dogs and an older adoption, and these are real dogs somewhere. But the shelter did not make this game, obviously. So who made this? And speaking of things that are close, we are thrilled to welcome someone very far away to this show right here. We are not alone. We are joined by Lisa Blakie, narrative designer at Runaway Play, who is part of this wonderful project. Lisa, welcome to the chat.
Lisa, thank you for making this game.
Just trying so hard not to laugh that whole time. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to get to talk about the game of the century.
Well, before we do, it is tomorrow or it is yesterday where you are. You're in New Zealand, and we are on the East Coast. You're in the future. Good. How is it? Have we fixed COVID and all that stuff by now? Or?
Funnily enough, our whole country just went back into full lockdown yesterday.
Oh, no.
But that's okay. It's only for a few days at the moment, and then they're going to, see what the haps is. But.
Well, and I don't want to make this all about that stuff, which we all hate talking about, but like, and lockdowns are hard for everyone. But whenever I hear about New Zealand being like, we had one case, shut it all down, I'm like, yes, that's what we need to be doing. Yep. They're doing it right. And I think the results are that people are safe there. Yeah. But tell me, as a native New Zealander, am I wrong in that perception, or are things working as intended?
Yes, as far as I know, like, we haven't had to do lockdowns for like most of the year, so that's been great. Everything's been pretty normal. But it's chill. I can work from home. I'm fine. It's a bit cold this morning because it's also winter here, which is kind of weird for you. Yeah. And it's the morning, and it's the future. But it's the same planet, I swear.
So we want to hear all about this game, but tell us about your background as a narrative designer and working in game development, and how did you get here?
So great question, because I feel like my path into games was quite strange. But basically I went to university and did media and film studies, but always loved video games like my whole life, and then found out that I could actually work writing about games into like essays and stuff. So I was like, whoa, this is sick. And then didn't know what I was going to do with my life. So I did honors, which is like 4th year of university, and I wrote it. That was the year that Never Alone came out. So I did it about like Indigenous storytelling in games, because I'm Māori, which is the Indigenous people of New Zealand, and so it was like super fun for me to get to do that. And then at the end of the year I was like, I still don't know what I'm doing with my life. So I just like Googled game companies in New Zealand, because I was like, I wonder if there's even an industry here, and it turns out there was.
Okay. How big? What are we talking about?
So that was like 6 years ago, and pretty big. Like the biggest company, big for New Zealand, which is a population of 4 million. But the sort of the biggest company that we have, I think, was around 100 staff at that time, which was like Path of Exile. I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
Yeah, I didn't know that they were a New Zealand developer.
I
That's
didn't
cool.
either.
They're kind of like the great grandfathers, I suppose.
God, not to sidetrack, but like,
No.
have we talked about Path of Exile, Colette? Because it's like live service Diablo, and
people have told me to go play it before, but I don't think I've ever gotten around to it.
Yeah. I also haven't played it. I'm bad. But yeah, they were kind of the biggest ones. And then I found out about Runaway, which was based where I'm from, which is Dunedin. And I was like, how has there been this company here this whole time and I haven't known about them?
Wow, okay.
And then they were looking for a community manager at that time. And I was like, wow, that's crazy that like, you know, everything that I learned at uni is like super relevant to this job. So, because I'd spent the whole time of people being like, what kind of job is that degree going to get you? I was like, I don't know, I'm just having fun. And then, so I applied and got the job, and which was really, really wild because I was straight out of university as well. But I've been there ever since, and through I still do community management, so I'm like community director as well as narrative designer. But
cool.
Throughout, kind of working there, I was like, I want to be able to kind of explore more parts of game design and narrative because I love writing. And then now it's kind of turned into my full-time job through old friends, which has been amazing.
Hey, that's so awesome.
That's kind of how I got into the industry, and I've been at Runaway this whole time, so it's great. I love it.
You know what's amazing is how many we often have like industry people on, you know, like that's kind of our thing, like developers or whatever. And like, I cannot tell you how many people were like, I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life, so I just decided to go look into this games thing that I love. It's amazing how often I hear that story, and it always makes me feel really happy to hear that story because I also got into writing about games in a very similar way, and, you know, didn't have a writing degree or any of that stuff. And so it's always, I have a soft spot in my heart for the people that are like, I'm just going to do my thing.
Yeah, totally. It's really hard to like convince teenagers of that though, because they're always like, how did you get your job? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know, just do what you love. And they're like, I can't tell my parents
like, what?
that.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, it's do what you love, but it's like you gotta push hard, or you have to make your own luck, or, you know, or if an opportunity comes your way, just really go for it. Or it's kind of like there's a job posting and it's got 6 skills and you're like, I have 2 of these skills. I don't know. I'm not qualified for that. Just go for it anyway and be awesome in the interview. And that's maybe that's the 2.0 version of the do what you love, which is like kind of crappy advice for a young person, unless you say, no, you got to like really push hard, you know? So I don't know. I like that stuff.
Totally.
So, of course, I have 1,000 questions, but I want to know like where the idea sprouted for we're going to take this shelter and make it a game.
Yeah. So I'm like a super fan of the real Old Friends Senior Dog Sanctuary. And I have been since like 2016.
Where is it though? Is this in Georgia
it's in Tennessee. It's like near Nashville. Yeah.
Okay.
But like I think around that time, me and my friends were just really into these like super niche like Facebook pages of like just animal caretakers because like it was 2016 was kind of like a tumultuous year, but we just found this comfort in like kind of just going online and being like, oh, look at this dog, it's having the best time, or like look at this, you know, like native bird that's been rescued, or like this 3-legged cat. I don't know, it was really a good thing to just kind of go home to and just be like, yay, at least they're having a nice time. And then
2016, at least they're having a nice time is the slogan.
At least, pretty much.
I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
When Americans say 2016, we're talking about some specific stuff, but like, are you perceiving American politics and culture and being like, oh God, or is there stuff going on your neck of the woods?
Yeah, it was that. And I like our political stuff is a much minor, I would say. But that year was kind of also, I think, the sort of tipping point of science finally reaching people about climate change.
Right.
And New Zealand has like a huge rural farming community, which is kind of like, most of our sort of economy. But a lot of misinformation started happening around that time. And we're trying to get policies in to kind of make, like, I guess, just save the environment, essentially, which is getting a lot of backlash. And that was kind of around that time that it started.
Interesting.
Yeah. But just all sorts of things, like personal things that were happening to my friends, and we were all living in the same house, so it just kind of felt like this, I don't know, this wild sitcom / drama of a year.
And you just need a 3-legged cat to look at on the internet. And
just needed a big fluffy dog to look at that. And then, I think it was the year after Emma, who's the creative director at Runaway, and I were sitting on a long haul plane to go to GDC in the US, and it's like, what do you do for like 11 hours? Talk about your dream games that you want to make. And I had introduced her to old friends because she actually has a dog, so she's already living the dream. But she was like, oh, this is such a like great page, like imagine if we made a game about them, and like we just kind of brainstormed like how it would be, and then we sort of just like left it there. And then throughout the year we just kind of kept talking about it, and we also I guess I should backpedal a little bit. Runaway makes mobile games that were traditionally around like nature. So we have like a butterfly game, and a game where you collect like underwater creatures, and also one where you collect moths as well, which is like a nighttime version of the butterfly one. But the reason that we did that is we originally started with a film and TV company who made nature documentaries. So that was kind of like how we started, and that was, I think, like 12 years ago. But in more recent times, we've kind of just been leaning towards more the relationship between humans and animals. So we released a game in 2018 called Forester's Cat Cafe, which is where you run a cat cafe.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't know about that one. I am so fucked. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to play both games at the same time.
Yeah. I would say, Cat Cafe is definitely more casual. It's very much more you do your stuff and you can kind of spend as long as you want in it, but you can definitely pull away from it. Whereas Old Friends is more like there's lots going on.
Oh my God, all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, time. Leo needs pets. Oh my God, I gotta
go. Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of game was really successful for us. So we decided to kind of lean more into this sort of like using animals as, this kind of like thing that humans relate to, while trying to, like you guys kind of mentioned, the whole like adopt, don't shop, and rescue animals and that sort of thing. So that's the narrative in Cat Cafe, as well as that all the cats are they're actually real life cats. So like my childhood cat is in it.
Oh wow.
And then after that success, we were like, okay, let's pitch this like Old Friends game because we think it would be really great. And then the company was on board. And then we reached out to the real Old Friends who were also just like, this sounds amazing. Let's do it.
Oh my God.
So great.
Yeah. So that's kind of the story of like how it all came together. And then Emma and I got to go and visit them at the end of 2018 as well in Tennessee, which was wild. It was like a dream come true for me.
Oh my gosh.
It's so nice. We had assumed that the shelter was looking to marketing is the wrong word because that's not what they're about, but like, hey, we want to get the word out about this, and we could, buy a billboard or we could run a Facebook ad, but making a game was like, oh wow, that's so interesting. But it was actually your company that came to them, which which is also very interesting.
Yeah, that's incredibly cool. And like because of a personal like love for it, the story of all this keeps getting better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Like I think the reason it worked so well was like we just we got on like immediately in like our first call with them, because I think when they got this kind of like random email out of the blue from like this company in New Zealand, they were probably like, what?
Move to spam. What is this?
Yeah. They also were like, do they mean like a card game? Which I was like, that's adorable.
Right. Well, that's also a great idea.
I mean, I would play an old friends card game, to be fair.
Yeah, it's like spin-off after this, yeah. And then, yeah, we got to meet them in real life. And I think, like, just we have the same kind of brand values and want to achieve the same thing. So it was a really easy fit for us, yeah.
Wow. That is... I keep just going like, delightful, amazing.
Yeah.
That is super, super cool. And
Yeah.
I have to say also, I don't want to give anything away, but like, I have to say that like with each dog, like, because, you know, while I was, I had read the summary. So I was like, oh my God, these are real dogs. And so when you get when you get a dog, you know, you get a little, access to a little info thing about them, and I'd click through and I'd see the picture of the real dog and I'd be like, oh my God, it's a real dog, I want to go see the real dog. And I'd go in and see the real dog. But like the fact that, like, for instance, I noticed, and I was really curious about this, I noticed that when you're in like the woofs up section, that some of the names of the people who give you requests, I was like, are these other dogs?
Yeah.
They are. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I suspected, because it was like Freckles, and I was like, if these are other old friend dogs, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, they are. That's so great that you noticed that. I love that.
Oh my God.
So all those quests are like randomly generated as well. So we were like, we just have to like, you know, use the names of the other dogs so that we don't get also like, you know, I don't know, trademark swiped or something.
Right.
That's someone's actual username. Yeah.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah. I love it. It is incredibly sweet and lovely.
Yeah.
And, you know, I, of course, like the first thing I thought was, well, I wonder if the game will help any of the pups that are still there get adopted if they're seeking adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. I really hope so. Like, we haven't heard of any, like, I guess because the game has only just come out. Like, it came out 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, but that's like, if we have somehow gotten someone to adopt a dog from them, that would be amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be like I would go over the top. That would be like too much for my heart.
Definitely. Yeah. Because we have seen like a lot of people been like, oh wow, I didn't realize that this was like a real place. And then also the opposite of the old Friends fans being like, oh wow, I didn't know you were making a game. So it's like these two communities coming together.
Oh, right. Because they have their existing Facebook followers or whatever, right?
Yes.
That are now aware of it. Yeah, that's cool. That's great.
Have they been around for a while?
I think that, so they started just the two of them, Xena and Michael. They used to rescue, I think it's golden retrievers. And then through that, they met this dog called, I think it was Gracie, who was a senior, and they just fell in love with her. And they kind of got to know more about how seniors don't get adopted from shelters because people kind of perceive them as, you know, being on their last legs, and that's and that they're just waiting around to die, which is the opposite. Like they have just as much love and energy as puppies. It's just that they have more, you know, health things that can be expensive. So old friends, when you adopt dogs from them, they pay for all of the vet costs, everything that you need. So, and they have their own like veterinary clinic at their new place as well. So, but yeah, I think they've been around probably since around 2014, I want to say.
Wow.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
That is absolutely incredible. I love
They're
it.
The best.
Well, and I also noticed, because it's so funny. So, you know, if I'm playing, my personal take on if I'm playing any kind of game that has microtransactions or things you can buy, my thought is always, well, if I'm having a lot of fun, I'm okay with microtransactions, because usually when you're, you know, downloading a game, you're not paying anything to download the game. So to me, you know, if I buy $20 or $30 worth of microtransactions in a game, it's like, well, I'm still getting a deal for a game that I'm playing like every day, all the time. But what I thought was really cool was, like, while playing it, I was like, okay, like, somehow, some way, please tell me that like some portion of my microtransaction will go to old friends or whatever. And then I saw the shirts and I was like, yes. So I bought a shirt because of course I was like, can I support them? I really want to. But I wondered how like that part of it worked. Like, is that of course, like by finding the game at all, people know about old friends, but do any of the microtransactions like direct money to them?
Yeah, so there's like legal stuff around like this app stores where you can't turn direct purchases into a donation just because people can like, you know, take advantage of that and just essentially lie and steal money.
Right.
But the way that we are working with old friends is that every month that the game is profitable, we sponsor a dog. So we're already, so what that means is like, so we're already sponsoring Mac, who's like the first dog that you get, and that covers like all their medical bills, their food, all their care, basically. So like, our dream is that we can sponsor every single dog at Old Friends. But that's like a easier way to just like communicate it with people as well, because we've had a lot of questions people asking about that and stuff. So we just want to make it super clear, super easy to understand. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to buy all the Bark books tonight.
That was the other thing too, was like we wanted to make sure that the stuff that you actually are spending your real money on is like, you know, exciting, like things like outfits for the dogs and like
dude, it's like that's just like incredible. Like, I mean, literally I'm just like playing, and you know, I live with my husband, and so I'll be playing, and like he'll be in the other room and he'll just hear me go and he's like what happened? He's like, because he knows. He's like, did Matt get a new outfit? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, come see this hat. Come see this birthday hat. Like, you know, it's so funny because like the whole wholesome games movement in general is something that I've been interested in for well over a decade. I used to write for CNN and I did this like big profile, which I guess you wouldn't have called it a wholesome game at the time, but I think it is now, on Journey when it came out. And since then, I feel like these kind of like, you know, games that are peaceful and like, or just like give you warm and happy feelings have gotten to be a bigger and bigger genre. And like, I think games in general bring something good to the world in all kinds of different ways. But I feel like growing up, I've been playing games for, gosh, I don't know, 3+ decades now. And I don't feel like I had a lot of quote unquote wholesome experiences in my gaming life before, like, I don't know, the last probably 5-6 years has gotten a lot bigger with games like Spiritfarer and you know, and I'm curious, like as a person that has been a part of making one of these like incredibly wholesome games, like what you think of that movement in general.
Yeah, it's awesome that you bring that up because, we got to be on the first, or maybe it was the second Wholesome Direct that Wholesome Games puts together.
Yes.
So we had like a little trailer at the end, I think it was last year, being like, the game's going to come out this year, but then we were like, no, it's not. But yeah, they've been awesome supporters of us as well. And I think that kind of grassroots movement stuff has really helped, and that it shows like these, because we're a tiny team as well, is the other thing. Like I think we have like 30 staff altogether, and that's across you know, like 5, is it 5? No, 6 now, 6 different games. So that, and you know, we're at the bottom of the world, so like getting that sort of even tiny coverage is like really, really special for us. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of like wholesome games as well. I feel like I've always been attracted to them, even as a kid, you know, playing like games in the way that you maybe weren't supposed to, like when I would play like Zelda games, I would just like try to talk to as many people as possible and like explore the world as much as I could without, you know, killing stuff essentially, even though I did I did find it fun, but I was always looking for alternative ways of playing, I suppose. But I'm so glad that there's going to be more of these kinds of games for people to play.
Me too. I just have like an endless hunger for it. Like I just, it's like the cuteness is one thing, and I love the cuteness, but like, there's just something lovely about it. And I also feel like, with COVID ongoing, like my husband and I really have found that like we, for instance, discovered, or I should say not discovered, but got into Twitch last year and both started streaming and finding communities. And for us, like that was a really great way to connect while not being able to physically connect with people. And I feel like playing something like this has brought me like a kind of special joy that, I enjoy games and I'm always playing games, but like this is a kind of game that brings, I don't know, for me, it feels like every aspect of this game was crafted with love. That's what it feels like. And like, that's not something I can say about games all the time.
Thank you.
Really? I mean, it does. Like, I think that like polish, right, is one thing. And, you play a AAA or whatever, and, you're like, oh yeah, it's super polished. But like when you can really feel like the heart in a game, I think that's what always like captures me, feeling that. And I think Old Friends just has so much of that. So, thank you again for making such a lovely thing.
So emotional. I said at the start that I actually listened to the episode when you were talking about it, and I was just like crying because it's like so wild, and because we've been working on it for like 3 years, and it's
So I can only imagine like and that's the next thing I wanted to ask is like how is the reaction to this now that you guys have put it out? Like I can only imagine people are like I am.
Yeah, it's been frighteningly positive.
Too positive.
Yeah, I'm just like, wow, there's been no, because I've been helping like our community manager oversee everything because it's, it's gone like bonkers. But she hasn't reported one negative thing, and I haven't seen any negativity. And like the rating, like the reviews as well, like normally you would see, at least a handful of negative ones for bugs or whatever, but it's still got like 5 stars in the US App Store at the moment, which is amazing. I mean, it's so cool.
To be fair, like if you have anything ugly to say about a game that is taking care of elderly dogs in a rescue, like you're like there's something the matter with you. Like a part of you is dead.
So true.
Like on top of the fact that this game is beautifully made, like really, like what could you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm waiting for it though. I'm waiting for it. You never know.
Well, maybe that person will, leave a bad thing and then later be like, maybe I did have fun playing with those dogs.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was having a bad day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Well, I feel like I've dominated the hell out of this conversation because I'm so excited about playing this. But Matt, if you have anything else that you'd like to ask, please, by all means.
So my questions as someone who has not played, and Colette's alluded to a little bit of the gameplay, but what's going on mechanically here? Is this, there are a lot of pet simulators, or like in a larger game you get a pet or you're tending crops, and there are mechanical things where you have to feed or water, and then so like what am I doing day to day in this game, and what is compelling me to check in or buy the shirt or whatever? Because like like in Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley, it's like, well, what's my neighbor up to today, or what's going to be in the shop today? So what's the dopamine hit that Colette's getting here?
Hold on. Lisa, please pause. Matt, have you ever loved a dog?
I can't say that I have. I'm not really a dog person, and I'm not a pet person in general. I mean, I've loved a cat in my younger days, so I get it. But like I understand what that is, but I'm asking, how do we simulate that in a compelling way in an app?
Okay,
or
that's
in a
fair.
Game?
That's a great question as well, because I agree. I think like a lot of pet simulators can only go so far, like I think the one that I had the best time with was Nintendogs, which that was made by Miyamoto, so it's like it kind of has to be amazing.
right.
But yeah, that was, and I think that's the reason why this game took a lot longer for us to make, because we wanted to make sure that this wasn't kind of just like a dog collection clicker simulator. We wanted it to be like this world that the player comes back to and looks forward to checking into. But the main kind of like core loop that we have is petting, feeding, and playing with the dogs. So that's like the main interactions that you do in the world. But outside of that, you actually like bake the food for them, you make furniture for them, and you also like, you know, figure out their favorite toys and that sort of thing. But we were like, yeah, that's kind of not going to be enough as well. Like, we think this game is going to need to have sort of this element of storytelling in it, which I was like, hell yeah, it does. So that was kind of how my role came to be, I guess. And we, around that time as well, like, games like Choices and Episode were like huge on the App Store and still are. So I was like, well, that means that actually people love to read things on mobile and people are wrong. So yeah, we decided that as you're kind of like petting, playing, feeding the dog, they give you loyalty, which is like the love heart thing that you see. And when that fills up, you get to unlock a story with them. And those stories are sort of told in that sort of visual novel style, where you make choices, but the choices don't, you know, there's no bad choices you can make, basically. And all those stories are based on either real things that happen to the dogs, or they kind of play on their personalities. So I think that was the main design pillar that we had, was that we wanted to show players what great friends that senior dogs can make. So me making the game this whole time. And yeah, so you have that, which is kind of the main thing. And then you can also do things like live streams, which, yeah, Colette kind of talked about in the last episode.
Oh my God, I was so excited. I was like, are you serious?
Yeah. So that helps you like sort of gain donations, and then you get requests from people that are, some of them are custom written and some of them are just randomly generated, which I think are the funnier ones. And what else is going on? So much. I guess we wanted to design it in a way where that if you wanted to, you can stay in it for as long as you want, or if you don't, there are natural points where you can kind of step away, because that's the thing with mobile games as well, is that normally you want to play them when you're kind of like in a limbo state, I guess, or maybe just before bed. You know, you don't want to be, or hopefully you don't want to be on it for like hours and hours and hours, but if you are, that's fine. But yeah, that's kind of like the core loop of it, I guess. And I guess, yeah, going back to the stories, like all of these like older dogs just have, you know, a lifetime of experiences, I guess, as well as most of the dogs that they get at Old Friends they don't know anything about their history, which I think is also kind of cool, because you know, they don't judge them on anything that's happened to them, and they just want to let them have the best kind of years of their life left. So that's kind of the key parts of the stories. It's just like having fun with your dogs, but they get more and more ridiculous as you get more dogs, because we got to a point where we were like, okay, there's only so much you can sort of do with a dog in real life. So let's make this a detective mystery story. Like purely based, there's this one dog, Babs, who just like loves sniffing. So we were like, okay, let's make something spooky happen at the sanctuary.
Oh my God.
So that's kind of the wrap around her narrative. And then, yeah, there's also this dog called Tigger, which is probably the most famous one, I guess, who like is just the most unique looking dog we've ever seen. And everyone on the internet, like, has kind of been like, is this dog an alien? Like, is he just this like ethereal being? And so, yeah, his story is just, it's wild. But yeah, he's the last dog you unlock. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the game, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. There's some progression ladder or loop or unlocking. Like there's, yes. You know, yeah. It's fun to pet and feed dogs, full stop. But yeah. Like, I personally, I'm going to need more. I'm going to need that loop to get it to the next thing, you know?
Yes, that's very Matt. Whereas I'm just like, I'm petting a dog.
Yeah, totally.
But, I will say one thing, just to allude back to what you said about like, how long you can play, is that I've had some games like clicker style games or, anything like that I've played long enough to where like they don't really, there really is no good moment where you could exit. And I've noticed that would make me sometimes play the game longer than I necessarily should. And then I realize I'm not having fun anymore. So one thing I really admired about Neko Atsume, if you've played it, is that, you're like, of course I have.
Yes.
Is that when you played it, it was like, okay, you go in, you do your thing, you'd be like, oh my God, I saw a cat, or a cat was here. And then like, you'd be like, okay, I've done my stuff and I'm going to leave now. And you could come back later in the day, or you could come back 2 days later and it wouldn't matter. But I felt like they implemented something that was really clever about like the rhythm of what it's like to play the game for the player. And when I've been playing Old Friends, I felt kind of similar. Like, I might not check in for a day, and then I might go in and be like, oh my God, all my dogs need love and like food. And so give them what they need. And then like there comes a point where I'm like, okay, I've done a lot of things. They're all happy. I'm going to bow out now and go do some other things. And, I'll come back and check on them in a day or so. And what I like about that is that I think it keeps the experience like, I don't know if pure is the right word, but like, I don't want to max out on it. I kind of want to do my thing. And there's a good rhythm point to go, oh yeah, okay. I feel good about my dogs now. I'm going to leave.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No.
So 100%. I think that's like a game design thing. It's a small thing, right? But like, it's also such a big thing for like the user experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Fully agree. Yeah. And yeah, it's funny you mentioned Neko Atsume, because like I feel like it's had such a huge, like that game had such a huge impact on the kinds of games that are being made on mobile now.
Absolutely.
And there are lots of games that are trying to replicate the same feeling, but I just feel like it doesn't, a lot of them don't have the same like soul, I guess, as them.
That's a perfect way to say it. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, that game was a huge inspiration as well.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Yeah, I love it. I'm a huge fan.
The waiting mechanic is really fascinating to me across all games, and that is something that makes game worlds feel alive to me. Of like, this thing that I'm crafting takes real world time, or the I pet the dog and the dog is happy and the dog won't need me again until the next day. That sort of checking in and out thing is extremely compelling to me. It's what got us all hooked on Animal Crossing and other games that I really enjoy, of like, oh, I'm building this, crafting this weapon or whatever, and I got to come back tomorrow or in a week to see what's next. MMOs have this and such. I don't know. There's something that makes, because like when you play a game and you just put currency or points into something and then it happens, that's like, oh, I did that, and I can sit here and grind away at the mechanic until I get it. But when you have to really wait real time, it to me it feels like, oh, that thing, that world is still happening. It's still alive when I'm not there. And we know it's not, but it's very fun to have that experience. And so now I'm seeing those mechanics in so many games, mobile, of course, but lots of other experiences. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. It's funny that you bring up Animal Crossing too, because New Leaf was the first one that I ever played in Animal Crossing on 3DS. And the way I played it, it was so into that like waiting and I would just come back to it like every day in certain moments, and I ended up playing like over like 400 hours of it or something outrageous. Yeah. And then when New Horizons came out, and I was so hype, but it came out the day that New Zealand went into lockdown last year, and I was like, oh, it's so like weird that I can play this whenever I want, whereas like
Right.
In the past,
Yeah.
I had been forced to pick when I could actually play it, I think for that reason, like that was why I didn't enjoy it as much. But I'm like, oh, I guess I'll go back to it now because I feel bad.
Right. Yeah. Did we talk about it here? I've definitely talked about it here or elsewhere. Of like, we all sort of broke the game ourselves because it's like, well, I can just go online and get all the turnip money I need and then get all the stuff I want and buy everything. And then it's like, well, shit, now there's nothing else to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
When another Animal Crossing comes out, I will not do that again because I realized that I ruined it in a way for myself that, like, you know, some people are still enjoying and playing like the little expansions that have come out and stuff. And I haven't gone back because I feel like I did too much, you know?
Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
It's a shame.
Mm.
But we've learned our lesson.
If we've learned any lesson from the pandemic, it is play Animal Crossing slower. That's my takeaway from this whole thing.
That's too funny. Oh my gosh.
Well, it is time to move into our next segment, which Colette and I like to call talking about video games. So, Lisa, you have the floor. What are you playing right now? That could be something you are enjoying. You can't get enough of it. Or it could be something like, hey, I tried this thing. Kind of stunk.
Yeah. Luckily, not that. Last weekend, I feel like I'm finally catching up on all the games that came out last year. So last week, I played If Found for the first time, which is like a 2-hour kind of visual novel story game where the only mechanic is that you're erasing things on like the computer or through a journal, and it's like this amazing story about this trans woman in Ireland in the 90s, and that's all I'm going to say about it because I don't want to spoil it, but it's great, and it's just like watching a movie, but you're playing it for 2 hours.
You said it's called Found?
If Found, yeah.
If Found. Okay, cool. That sounds right up my alley because I'm a big visual novel fan.
It's really, really good.
Awesome.
But other than that, I just have been smashing Sims 4.
Oh, okay.
Every day because I love The Sims and I've got nothing else to do except work and play The Sims right now.
Whenever someone say, or I come across someone from the Sims community who are like, "Yep, that the new expansion for The Sims 4, I am super hyped," and I'm like, "Right." Sims 4, it exists and is huge, and we just don't hear about it enough. What's going on? What hooks you? And what is I don't know the structure of the DLC. Is it like everyone gets everything, or you buy it incrementally? And is there one that you are particularly enjoying?
Yeah, so you buy it. You can choose whichever ones that you want to buy. I think I have almost all of them because the year before, I got really sick for like 2 weeks and had nothing to do, and was like, what if I just spend like $300 on expansions? They're not, they're not cheap, or in New Zealand dollars at least. So, but I always find extreme value out of them. Like, I don't even know how many hours I've played of that game.
Yeah, we've talked about that here. Like, you buy a $60 game, but play it for 400 hours. That's a pretty good. There's no movie ticket or Netflix subscription that's going to get you that value. So no shame in spending that money on the main thing, the core hobby that you love. I think it's great.
The one that just came out was the cottage living one, which is basically like living in a small town like Britain, I suppose.
Oh wow.
So you can make like jams and like mayonnaise and like and you can like talk to animals and stuff, and you can like have a cow and chickens. I don't know, it's just kind of like, it's really sweet. But when I was playing it last week, I didn't realize that the like bunnies that you make friends with can actually die, and so that upset me quite a lot. 'Cause as well as my sim, they were like, "Oh, my friend like died, and now I'm going to be sad for 2 days." And I was like, "Well, there's nothing I can do about that." But yeah, I'm not really much of like a builder in The Sims. I'm more of I like making the characters and ruining their lives, basically.
Whenever anyone has talked about The Sims to me, that is basically what they've said. That's what I want to do. I want to ruin characters' lives.
Yeah, it's a good time. Yeah, it's I just love like the emergent gameplay that happens. Like I feel like every week at lunchtime I'm was talking to my colleagues about like what happened in The Sims that weekend. Like I was like, yeah, like one of my Sims, we just went to the library because she had to like level up the skill, and then all of a sudden like her toddler got taken away, and I didn't save for like 2 hours, so now she just has to live with like one of her children being, you know, taken away from her. Like, yeah, and it's just, yeah, it's wild. It's a great time.
That got dark.
Yeah,
Sims 4.
Yeah. Yeah, and also my partner's been playing Loop Hero, which I know y'all talked about a while ago, but I've been watching him play it and be like, what's going on? But he loves it. So yeah.
Just announced for Switch. The minute that game appeared out of the ether, I think I actually like was a dick and tweeted the developers. I was like, please, this has to come on Switch. Like,
you're one of
please.
And I'm one of them, and I did it, guys. I made it happen because they just announced in the Nindies Direct, which was this past week or last week, that it will come to Switch soon. It's
such a Switch game, in my opinion.
It's such a Switch game. Yeah. It's literally, as you've seen, it's very deep, it's very complex, but it's like hit spacebar. Like that's the only actual interaction you have on a run. Now I'm reducing it, of course, but you really don't need complex controls, or you don't need a mouse and keyboard to play this game. It's very simple. Great for a touchscreen too. You know, it should be on mobile as well.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Colette,
yeah, that's what I've been playing.
What's going on? What's going on over there?
Well, I mean, obviously I'm playing Old Friends, so we're not going to go over that again. And usually I find that I like to play a lot more games like in a week's time, but this week I actually haven't played anything else with the exception of Overcooked 2, which I played last night on a friend's stream. He does a community game night on, what was yesterday? Wednesday? I don't even know what day it is. Anyway, he does a community game night every week. And this week was Overcooked 2. And I really like Overcooked, even though it is pretty challenging. But like, it's a great game to play with friends, and it's a great game to stream, because inevitably, no matter how good your like ability is to work with your friends, there's someone is always like screaming like, oh my God, no, burger, like don't put it there, don't chop that, no. And like that was like the 2.5 hours last night of just like that, and us just like cracking up laughing, because even if you totally screw up, it's like you're still having fun. It's crazy. I don't know. It's really great fun. But I played like a little like mouse with like a giant chef hat. All the characters are really, really cute. But it's interesting because you look at it, you're like, oh my God, it's so cute. And then you start playing it, and you're like, this is kicking my butt. Like its difficulty curve goes like up fast.
Yeah, I've heard that.
We were in the middle last night, I think after about like 2+ hours, we were in the middle of like this kind of Harry Potter-esque level where you're like obviously inside a magical school. And it got so hard. Like there was like a portal, like a door portal. So like you had to run stuff around, and then you had to like go through this portal, which would spit you on the other side of the level, because the ladders that went in between, like there was a middle part of the level and 2 side parts, and the ladders just kept vanishing because like I guess wizards were zapping them or something. And I was just like, okay, I think my brain just broke. Like I'm out. I can't do anymore.
Too much.
But I will say that playing it with 4 people, which is the max, is the most fun I've ever had playing it. And it occurred to me that I think that the developers built these games to play with 4, and like if you play with 3 or 2, like they really didn't downscale the difficulty, in my opinion. So like playing with 2 can be really frustrating, whereas playing with 4 is like if you can get your strategy right and kind of communicate well, like verbally with everyone you're playing with, you have a better chance of like doing well. But yeah, and don't try to play one player ever, like ever.
Right.
It is literally impossible. So
yeah, that's strange that they don't scale it up or down. How was you're playing remotely online with 4 people, right? Is that accurate?
Correct. So there was supposed to be, we actually tested it last night. We were like, oh, can we do remote play with it? And we tried it, but it didn't really sort out well. Like there were issues with the screen appearing correctly. So I ended up like grabbing a copy for like $11 so we could all play it. But if everybody owns a copy and you're playing online together, it was pretty flawless. Like we had no issues. Yeah, nice. At that point. Yep. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I feel like it could potentially frustrate certain people. And my answer to that would be, if you love the game but you felt frustrated, play it with a total of 4. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's nice. About it for me. But yeah, it's been a fun week between caring for my dogs and throwing burger patties at people's faces.
It seems very fun couch co-op as well. You know, like perhaps it is made for that in its truest form.
Well, my husband and I played it that way, and like I kid you not, I love this game. And after the first Overcooked, he was like, I think I hate that game. And so when Overcooked 2 came out, I was like, oh my God, we have to play. You can be the Swedish chef. We have to play. And we got it. And I was like, okay, you ready? And we sat on the couch and I like looked over at him once every like 4 or 5 levels. And like my husband just looked so unhappy. Like, and I was like, sweetie, I was like, we don't have to keep playing if you don't want to play this. And he's like, no, we're going to play. It was like he had a grudge against Overcooked. But yeah, I've never had the heart to like suggest that we play again since then, because he just looked so miserable.
You gotta be in it. It's that frustration.
It's an evil game. I mean, no doubt about it. Like it's a adorable, sweet looking game that like will bite your hand off. But I love that about it. You know.
See also Moving Out. Hopefully I'm remembering it right.
Yeah.
Which is you know this game, Lisa?
Yeah, it's similar chaotic
yes
vibes.
Chaotic cartoony chaotic coordination, but you are moving objects out of a house as a moving company, but there's no rules. So you can throw it through a window, you can throw the couch off the truck, and you know, all the objects have like weight and size. And so coordinating with some objects must be picked up by 2 players simultaneously and thrown because they're too heavy. You have to work together, and getting stuff around corners or throwing it out the window. It takes a lot of coordination. It can be very frustrating. Like, you know, the famous scene from Friends where they're moving the couch and it's like, pivot. That's this game.
That's awesome.
So I get it. Like we enjoyed it to a point, and then it was just like no. Oh, there's like one level in Moving Out where you get to it and you're like, it's not just moving furniture, it's moving sheep out of a farm, and they move. So you put them in the truck and then they just run away. And my wife and I were just like, okay, we're done here. This is not. We're not going to go to level 7. We can't make it.
Yeah, and that's okay. It's okay to rage quit, Matt. It's okay.
Rage quit as a family. That's what we do around here. Family rage quit. I am playing a little something. I don't know if you guys have heard of this game. Very niche. It's very, very under the radar. It's something called chess. Have you heard of it?
like IRL?
So every now and then I'll when we go to my in-laws, I'll play a game of chess with my father-in-law, and it's a nice time. And I was like, man, playing Magic and playing all these other like big brain games, so to speak. And I'm like, you know what? Chess is rad. It's still rad. Like I still like chess.
Yeah.
So I texted a friend and I look back at the thread, and literally 13 months ago, he was like, hey, what if you get on chess.com, get the app, and then we could just play chess asynchronously. I was like, that's fun. But what if we do this game and this game and this game? And he's like, I'm too busy for that. And then we just never followed through. So I open up, the chat, and I'm like, hey, remember 13 months ago when you said chess, we should play chess? Well, I've decided the answer is yes. Let's play. And so chess.com is a website, but it's synced up to the app. And so you just get it, and you make your move, and then you put it down, and then the app notifies you when it's your move. And it's nice. It's fun. It's nice to play with this old friend. But what I'm finding very challenging is that when you play a game like that, you're looking at the board and you're like, okay, if I move here, if I do this, okay, then that's going to happen, whatever. And when you're in it, I guess I make less mistakes because I'm focused on the board. But like when I close the app and then 4 hours go by, and then then my friend moves, and then I come back to it, I'm like, the fuck was I doing? I don't remember the plan. And I make really stupid mistakes in a game where I should know better. And so I'm playing very poorly, and I have to retrain my brain to play asynchronously, I guess, which has been a challenge for me. But if you're just jonesing for some good old fashioned chess, chess.com is cool. Wow. I recommend it.
I have to say that was probably the last thing, other than like Barbie Horse Adventures, that you would say you were playing this week.
Yeah, I didn't expect to hear it. Still enjoying Sea of Thieves, enjoying Final Fantasy 12. You can get a second license board. Like there's a part in the story where you get a second license board. And it's like you can basically like double, you can dual class with each character, so you're not locked into one skill tree. And I was like, oh, right, that makes sense because this board is completely filled up, and you get a whole new system of techniques and stuff. So that's fun. And then the other thing that that I recently found enjoyable again was playing Magic in the app, as I do and do periodically. I still enjoy the game, but the current the current season or card system is Forgotten Realms from Dungeons and Dragons, and a lot of the mechanics in there are dice rolls. So it's like, when this card enters the battlefield, roll the dice, and then if you get this number, it's this. If you get that number, it's that. And that's like, okay, cool. When this creature attacks, roll the dice, whatever. And I started to realize that there are other cards in that system that's like, whenever you roll a dice, do this or create this creature or add this. And I was like, what if I just make a deck that's where everything is about dice rolling? And lo and behold, I had enough cards in the collection to make a deck that's like, every card I play rolls a dice, which then triggers the other cards to do awesome stuff like create flying tokens or whatever. And I was like, I don't know, let's try this. And this deck is really fucking strong. Like, it's not unbeatable, of course, but I'm winning more than I'm losing with a deck that I made like on a whim. And I was very surprised by that, because I'm a very slow learner and I'm a very methodical, like, okay, what if I add this card and then take out this card, and then I'll play like 20 matches and be like, all right, well, maybe that's working, maybe that's not working. This deck I'd made, it like worked out of the gate. It's like 4 different colors and it just works. And I'm actually quite surprised. And I didn't invent it. There's other people online who have thought of this before me, but I was very surprised that this idea actually friggin' worked in this complicated system. So I'm back on Magic and having a good time. I recommend Forgotten Realms in Magic the Gathering. It's some cool mechanics. There's like dungeon mechanics too that are new, and it's interesting. As Colette said, I think episode 1 of this very show, it's a game that reinvents itself every so often, and this is one of those times where it's like completely new mechanics that have not been in the game before and changes the whole system. So
I really admire, just a quick aside about Magic, how I started playing Magic when I was 17, and like it's been quite some time since then, and at any time I could pick up Magic and still be like, how enjoyable this is.
Yeah, that's nice.
I love that about it.
I love it.
It's just a really well constructed game.
Yeah. Like scary well constructed. Like, how could all these systems actually work together? What geniuses are like, how do they know it will work? That's the thing that really baffles me, because chess is symmetrical. It's like y'all have the same pieces, and these moves do this, and that's going to be this. That's not the same game every time, but you always know what's happening. And Magic is like, here's a brand new thing. Here's a brand new mechanic that has never been in the game before. Good luck. And somehow it all makes sense. That really impresses me about these systems. It's extraordinary.
So cool. Makes me want to play Magic.
All right, fire it up. Let me know. That's it. That's all I got. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us across the universe here and for sharing your journey and more about old friends. Oh, and you know what? I when you were talking about the other games, and I was looking on the website last week too, I am interested in these other games that are like butterflies and other creatures.
I know,
like,
it's so pretty.
They're beautiful, but like as long as if these games have that loop, because like my kids are getting into like educational games that are, were like, oh, do this lesson or watch this thing, but they're doing it to get tickets so they can get a pet in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so do you, obviously the games that your studio makes are family friendly, but like, do you hear from families where like my young kid, my 5-year-old, my 8-year-old, they play?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, awesome.
100%. Yeah, like
Great.
Majority of Flutter players. Flutter is like 7 years old as well, which is the butterfly one. Are actually like, older women who like get their kids into it as well, which is kind of cute. But we actually also have like an in-house researcher, Jonas, who makes sure that all of the butterflies have, as accurate as possible likeness so that you can like recognize them in real life and stuff. So
That's
and
cool.
facts and that sort of thing. But the loop is kind of similar. So it's like you have an egg and then the egg hatches into a caterpillar. The caterpillars are definitely not have the same likeness as real life, but they're really cute. And then cocoon or chrysalis and then butterfly, and then you kind of expand a rainforest. And splash is a bit it's like similar but a bit different, but you can have like heaps of different like underwater fish species basically. So
all right, I think honestly those two games have just described my daughter and son. My son is obsessed with sea creatures, and I think my daughter would love the butterfly. Do you need how much reading is required for like the sea creature game, for example? Could he navigate if he's not reading quite yet?
I think so. I think the tutorial is quite long, so maybe if you just kind of played through it, and then I think he could probably understand the mechanics after that. Yeah.
Cool. That's great.
Cute.
All right. I know what we're doing this week.
Make sure you give them a 5-star review.
Yes. Absolutely. We will. Lisa,
thank you so much for
thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
It's been so fun. Thank you.
And don't forget the plugs, guys. Where can people download Old Friends Dog Game?
Oh, yeah. So you can get it on the App Store, on iOS, and Google Play for Android.
Amazing.
Excellent.
Check it out. And of course, thank you, the listeners, for entering the chat with us. Our theme music is by Azure Flux. Our logo is illustrated by Just Call Me Katarina. And we, of course, every week would like to hear what you were playing. Send us an email, haveenteredthechat@gmail.com. Or perhaps even more fun than email. What's more fun than email? I'll tell you. It's a Discord server.
Oh, yeah.
Come on in. The link is in the description of every episode. Hop on in because it's just so many awesome people just chit-chatting about whatever they're playing and asking questions, recommending games, getting groups together to play. It is fantastic. So join us there. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate and review the show on your favorite podcast platform because it helps others discover it. Thanks for chatting. Colette, any final words?
This rocked. Thank you, Lisa. This was a delightful episode for me in every way.
Yay. Same.
We'll see you next week. Bye.